I was able to track down one of my favorite cars, and that's my 350Z. I sold it about 11 years ago, and up until recently, I was able to track it down. Unfortunately, the picture was a year old, but it's pretty safe to say based on the pictures I saw, chances are it still looks the same. The 350Z was my first and only brand new car, and considering that I've owned more than 30 cars, it's one of the cars that really stood out in my collection. When I moved here to California in 2006, I first purchased an S14 Nissan 240, and it had an SR20 swap. After Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift came out, the value on those cars really went up. So I found a buyer out in Minnesota that flew in to California and picked up the car, and I was able to make a substantial profit from it. So I was able to finally purchase my dream car. I went from several dealerships to dealerships looking for a specific color, and what I'm talking about is the Interlagos Fire, which sometimes looks purple depending on the sunlight, and sometimes it turns to different shades of bronze. So it had that color shifting effect. The very first thing I did was purchase a pre-cut clear bra for my front end. I did also the mirrors, the hood, and several other parts of the car. One of the first things that I joined when I purchased my 350Z is a forum called my350z.com, and that's the largest 350Z forum in the world, and there's about over 200 members. And so I opened up a build thread, and I believe until this day it's still the #1 build thread in the forum. It wasn't until a few weeks ago that I logged in to check it out and kind of revisit the memories, which is what inspired me to do this episode on my channel. Before I purchased my car, I already had an idea of how I wanted it to look. And so the first thing I wanted to focus on was dialing in the suspension. I wanted to get a certain ride height and make sure the camber is just the right amount to where it's not too negative and still be aggressive. The first modification I did was upgrade my suspension. I went with Greddy's 32-way adjustable coilovers. This allowed me to adjust the ride height as well as the dampening. The front coilovers had adjustable cambers, so the rears I had to buy some ad-hoc camber arms where I can adjust it. That way I could dial in the camber and make sure that the front and the back are exactly the same. My next purchase was a front Greddy strut bar, and this was a simple bolt-on procedure. Once I got the ride height, camber, and front strut bar settled in, I moved on to the next part, which is my wheels. The next thing I wanted to focus on was the wheels, and this is kind of the make it or break it part of the vehicle. So I thought about different types of wheels and colors, different fitment, diameters, and all that, and it inspired me to move on to my first wheel for this car. Lucky enough to get into the SSR catalog. Shortly after I started posting up pictures on the forum, someone from Tanabe or More Japan reached out to me and asked me if they could use my car in the catalog, so I was pretty excited about that. After about 2 years, I wanted to kind of switch things up a little bit as far as wheels. The next part is focusing on one of the smaller parts of my project, which is electronics. My setup was pretty subtle. I didn't have any subwoofers or DVD head units on my car. I basically had an upgrade. I basically did just a slight upgrade just to get a little bit more dynamic sound out of the OEM speakers. I did upgrade a few things, including my head unit, and so I replaced the original one with an Eclipse MP3 player. I also purchased a iPod box from Eclipse so I could use my Apple Nano. My car didn't come with a factory navigation unit, so I purchased an aftermarket one I was able to customize my glove box so I could have a Navi as well as the function of a glove box as well. Media wasn't really a big part of my build, so that basically sums up the electronics portion. One of the more versatile parts of my project is the exterior. The montage you're about to see includes about maybe 2 or 3 different facelifts, so let's get into that.
I can hear the demons call when they do what they do. And now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through, I just gotta get through. Cause I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. Sometimes I feel like all is lost, but I know it's not true. I wanna put up all my walls cause I'm not in the mood, but then I cut myself off from the rest of the room. I know that time can heal it all if you're patient and soon it can all be worth it, all the searching. Pain is never really permanent, but damn it hurts, man. I could feel all of the turbulence and it's concerning. I've been searching for a purpose, I hope it's worth it. This society is really trying me. Ain't no hide and seek, I hide to be far from anxiety. I need my space, I need my privacy. I need some silence, please, you're all too loud. You don't speak quietly, opinions violently thrown across every surface. It makes me nervous, it's the world honestly burning. That's all I'm learning, hope that we can make a turn and start reversing all our minds and put the work in. We got some work, man. I just gotta get through. I can hear the demons call when they do what they do. And now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through, I just gotta get through. Cause I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never.
My infamous Momo steering wheel. This steering wheel has been in many of my cars, so that's always the first thing I do with my interior. Aside from shift knobs and upgrading my seats, everything in this car was pretty simple but very practical. So I'd say this was probably my favorite interior out of all the cars I've owned. All the upgrades that you see here, like the carbon accents, the Nismo floor mats, the shift knob, and some of the other things that I've upgraded are very modest. It wasn't too loud of an interior, but everything kind of just worked well together and was very comfortable. One of the most grueling parts of this project was doing the performance upgrades. As far as the engine, I did a full exhaust system from the headers back. So I did test pipes all the way back to the exhaust, and I ended up going with Turbo XS. Interestingly enough, I don't have that many videos of my car. So the ones that you're about to see are not that good of quality. I'm surprised that I wasn't a fan of taking video at the time because I like to make videos, but for the most part, I have just a few videos of the car. It kind of brings back memories. This one right here shows my car. I was taking my car out and I already had the exhaust installed, so you can kind of hear the exhaust note in this video. The next one is a couple car shows that I did. I believe the first one is Import Face-Off at the California Speedway in Fontana. And we had a booth there for Auto Hype, and me and my friends kind of set up our cars, and mine was in the middle. And I left to get some food, and when I came back, I saw all these people modeling on my car. So that's when I broke out my phone and took this video. The next one is the Motion Auto Show. I believe this was in the Long Beach Convention Center. And this one we had a team of about maybe 8 to 10 cars, and we had our own section, and we also had one model modeling for our cars. So now we come to the conclusion of this episode, and I want to show you how my old 350Z looks now. Again, it probably looks the same just by looking at these pictures, because 11 years ago, my car looked very similar to it is, aside from it being raised up a little bit. They put back the OEM mirrors as well as added some livery to the car. For the most part, that car looks pretty much the same as when I sold it. So that's going to pretty much sum up my history with my 350Z. Again, this is my first and only brand new car, so I have a lot of good memories with it. That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you on the next one.